Chamber of Commerce legislative update and preview. I am Al Malafato. I am on the board of directors of the Central Chamber. I am also chair of the Economic Development Advisory Committee and co-chair of our Governmental Affairs Committee. My day job, I'm an attorney with the law firm of Lewis, Longman and Walker. So we are joined today, I'm pleased to say, by most of the members of the Palm Beach County Legislative Delegation, Senator Lori Berman, Senator Tina Polsky, Senator Bobby Powell. I'm not sure if he's signed on yet, but we're expecting Senator Powell. We're also there he is, Representative David Silvers. Hello, Representative. He's the chair of the legislative delegation. Representative Omari Hardy, Representative Rick Roth, Representative Kelly Skidmore, and Representative Matt Wilhite. We were expecting Representative Snyder, but unfortunately, because of a personal matter, he was not able to join us. We wish him and his family the best. Our moderator today, and we're pleased to have, is WPTV Channel 5 news anchor and a host of To The Point, Michael Williams. Michael Williams, before joining Channel 5, was a political reporter at WFOR in Miami. There he covered both the 2008 and 2010 political campaigns. Michael was in Washington, D.C. from 2002 to 2004, covering politics. And he also covered the buildup of the war, the initial war in Iraq, as well as the Columbia Space Shuttle tragedy. From 1984 to 2006, Michael covered just about every major story to hit the Miami area, working for WTVJ, and before that, WSVN. He is an 8-time Emmy Award winner, as well as the recipient of the prestigious DuPont Columbia Award for reporting he did in Haiti. We are very privileged to have him as our moderator today. Michael?
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us here on Hollywood Squares. I always feel like I'm doing an episode of either that or the Brady Bunch with all of you in my grid. So I appreciate, though, in all sincerity, all of you being with us, and honored to be a part of this and to help moderate. In this new Zoom world, just to go over the rules again, each of you will have a 1-minute open. We'll go through questions, and I'm going to do them from the sheet I have. I'm going to start, we'll go to the end of the group, and then we'll go backwards to each of you. We say a minute. We know there's so much to talk about, but those of you who are joining and have submitted your questions via survey, we know that you're intimately aware of some of the major issues facing us. Of course, it all begins right now with COVID, and we know you'll go more in depth with your legislators as time moves on, but we want to give you an overview at home today of what's happening. Therefore, opening statements of a minute, answers of a minute. We'll have about an hour, a little bit more, and we'll time you. And if you hear me say, "Here's Johnny," you know that it's our magic man with the button, who, if you start going way over a minute, he just hits the button and we mute you and we move on. But we know that all of you are veterans and want to really have a good conversation with the audience that's joined us. The questions I'll be submitting to you come from a survey of chamber members. And again, as I said, no surprise, COVID in one way or the other is interrelated with virtually everything we talk about. We will begin, again, in the order of the names as they were submitted to me, with 1-minute statements, and we will begin with Senator Lori Berman, District 31. Senator?
Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you to the Central Palm Beach County Chamber for organizing this event and for having us here today. I've worked with many of you for a long time. I was a state representative for 8 years, and I am now starting my 3rd year as a state senator. I actually have worked with the chamber, I think, before you were even called the Central Palm Beach County Chamber, when you changed the name. My district is District 31. It goes from Delray to Lake Worth, basically from the ocean to the turnpike, a little bit out west in some further parts of it. I love working with you guys and being part of this community. And all of us who are here on this call, some of you know, we've been doing quite a lot of Zoom calls. And so we've all been with this group more than we've been with our families in the last 24 hours. But we all work together, and we all want to make Palm Beach County the best place it can be. And we all want to bring money back to Palm Beach County from the Florida legislature. So happy to be with you all today, talking about the issues and know that my office, which is in Boynton Beach, is always available for you, and I'm always available to answer any questions. Thank you.
And now to Senator Tina Polsky, District 29. Senator.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you to the Central Palm Beach Chamber for having us today. It's very nice to be here, not in a debate or running for office. So I'm happy to be here in a more relaxed atmosphere. And thank you for all that you've done hosting all of those different Zooms. I represent District 29, which is part of Broward, but mostly Palm Beach County. And it has all of Boca, Highland Beach, western parts of Delray, Boynton, Lake Worth, all of Wellington, South Bay, and Belle Glade. So quite a bit of the central Palm Beach area. And I'm very happy to be here with you today. It's going to be a very challenging session. You have a very strong delegation in all of us. We all know each other well, work together well, and we will do our best for the county, for the business community, and look forward to a great conversation today. Thank you.
Senator Polsky, thank you. And we now move on to another familiar face, Senator Bobby Powell, District 30. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Michael. It's once again good to see you. Good to see all of my colleagues here this morning. I am State Senator Bobby Powell, Jr., representing Senate District 30 here in Palm Beach County, the northern parts of Palm Beach County, starting at the town of Palm Beach, going all the way over to Royal Palm Beach, up through West Palm Beach, capturing my home city, or the city I was born in, Riviera Beach, through Jupiter, Juneau, to Quest, to all the areas in between, representing nearly more than 500,000 people here in the state of Florida. I believe that a life of service is a life that counts. I'm excited to continue working on the things that we worked on. As a native of Palm Beach County, it brings me extreme pleasure to continue working for the people of this county. 5 years in the 5 years in the Senate. This is my 5th year, and 4 years in the State House. Prior to that, I spent 3 years as a legislative assistant. Before that, I was an urban planner for the city of West Palm Beach, currently an urban planner for for Urban Design Studio. And I am an AICP certified planner, the only AICP certified planner in the legislature. Thank you.
All right, Senator, thank you. We look forward to hearing from all of you. Let's move on with opening statements. And we welcome now Representative Omari Hardy from District 88. Hello, sir.
I had to be the first one to do that.
We all do it.
Thank you for having me on. My name is Omari Hardy. I have the privilege of representing District 88 in the Florida House of Representatives. District 88 encompasses much of the urban spine of Palm Beach County, many of our inner city communities from Delray Beach through to Boynton Beach, Lantana, Lake Worth, West Palm Beach, Mangonia Park, Lake Park, and Riviera Beach. So it's a very large district. I have the privilege of representing it. And I think we all have the privilege of representing our constituents at a time when they need us most. We have a COVID-19 pandemic. We have a COVID-19 pandemic-induced recession. Many of our constituents are struggling economically, medically, even educationally. And so this is probably the most important legislative sessions of our careers. And I'm looking forward to being able to serve my constituents under these circumstances. And I'm also looking forward to, as someone who represents a part of Palm Beach County, to bringing money back home here. Obviously, that's a goal that we have, to make sure that our local governments and our residents are taken care of with the money that they send to Tallahassee. So I'm looking forward to serving, and I'm looking forward to participating today.
Now we turn to Representative Rick Roth, District 85. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Michael. And I am a native of Palm Beach County. I in agriculture industry for over 40 years, ran for office for the very first time as an elected official in 2016. I represent District 85, one of the largest districts, obviously, in Palm Beach County. On the northeast, I include Loggerhead Marine Center. On the northwest, Jupiter Farms. On the southwest, Arden out at Southern Boulevard near 20 Mile Bend. And to the southeast, Okeechobee Boulevard and Military Trail. So I have the beach folks, the city folks. I tell people the rednecks and the people that live in Loxahatchee that escaped from Broward County. I have 4 main issues: water quality, affordable housing, food banks, and adoption that I will continue to work on this year. Thank you.
Sir, thank you. Thank you. We look forward to hearing more from you, sir. And we turn now to Representative David Silvers, District 87. Hello, sir.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having us all here today. And I also want to thank the Central Palm Beach County Chamber for hosting today's event. I'm David Silvers. I represent House District 87, which is in Central Palm Beach County, which represents a large portion of West Palm Beach, Lake Worth, all of Lake Clark Shores, and all of Palm Springs, and a portion of Green Acres. I noticed that Representative Rick Roth mentioned affordable housing is one of his priorities. It's been one of my priorities for the last 4 years. And I've been running a bipartisan piece of legislation to make this Sadowski Housing Trust Fund unsuperable. And that Housing Trust Fund is funded when everybody on the dock stamps to fund affordable workforce housing in our state. And I think the goal is, and Representative Hardy mentioned it, we're going to have an economic downturn in our state. We need to make sure that affordable housing is accessible for everybody. So that's going to be one of my main priorities. And as well as my other chief priority is mental health for children. I've passed legislation year in and year out with Senator Bobby Powell. I'm proud to say that we've been able to pass some really substantive legislation on really building up the suicide prevention program statewide in our state for our high school students.
Thank you. And we'll have a chance for you all to amplify on your thoughts. Again, as we said at the outset, as COVID overlays all these concerns, including, for instance, affordable housing and so much mental health for young and the not so young among us. We would like now to turn to Representative Kelly Skidmore, District 81. And thank you for being with us, Representative.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Al, and everyone at the Central Palm Beach County Chamber. It's a pleasure to be here with all of my colleagues. My name is Kelly Skidmore. I represent District 81, which is west of the Turnpike, Boca Raton, Delray Beach, Lake Worth, and a little bit of Wellington that connects the district out to the Glades, where I represent the cities of Pahokee, South Bay, and Belle Glade. I was elected in November, but I do have some previous experience in the legislature. I served in the House from 2006 to 2010, and I was a legislative aide for 10 years prior. I'm excited about serving on the committees where I've been appointed. 3 of them are healthcare committees, so I know that I will be able to get my arms around some of the COVID solutions that we need in the state. And thank you for having us.
Thank you. And Representative Matt Wilhite, District 86. Hello, sir.
Well, thank you, Michael, and thank you for having me. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the Central Palm Beach County Chamber of Commerce members and to work with you. My name is Matt Wilhite. I represent the 86th District, which is Wellington, Loxahatchee Groves, Royal Palm Beach, Haverhill, Green Acres, City of West Palm Beach, and much of unincorporated Palm Beach County in the middle there. I'm in my 3rd term as a state representative. Prior to that, I served 8 years as a councilman in Wellington. Many of you know by profession, I'm a firefighter. So a lot of work that I do and have worked on and passed legislation on is dealing with first responders. Obviously, they are an integral part of our community, not just as the first responders, but baseball coaches and mentors and churchgoers and so much more. So obviously, it's important to me, but I think it's worthwhile noting that, you know, how involved they are and how we can protect them. And obviously during this pandemic, how involved they are. I currently sit on 5 committees that I've been appointed to right now. Rules Committee, the Full Appropriations Committee, Commerce Committee, Banking and Insurance, and K-12 Appropriations. So hopefully within those committees, we'll be able to work together quite a bit. A lot of work I said I do is for first responders, but I also do a lot for Alzheimer's and dementia. Very involved in that personal aspect, but wanted to work with you so much and the chamber. And thank you very much, Michael.
Well, we're going to now flip it around, as I said, and we're going to begin with the questions that chamber members were surveyed about what was top of mind to them. And again, COVID overlays so much. National surveys recently showed, not surprisingly, COVID above all else and all of its interrelated problems, so top of mind. And so Representative Wilhite, as we begin to go back through these questions and talk to each of you again with a minute, talk about, as the number one question that came to us from the member survey, what do you expect will be the top issues addressed in the next legislative session? But I'd also ask, what do you expect and how do you believe they're going to be best addressed? What will you all push for? We'll begin with you, Representative Wilhite. 1 minute.
Well, thank you, Michael. And obviously, one of the things that comes to the forefront of our minds is sitting on the appropriations committee. We got an update the other day that the budget of Florida is going to have about a $2.7 billion shortfall this year. So with that being said, we're going to have to work to see what we can do to make sure that we can balance out the needs of the residents and constituents of Florida. Obviously, COVID is in the forefront of everybody's mind. But as my colleague said, not just COVID and people trying to get vaccines or trying to get tested, but the financial aspects that are surrounding that. And so we're going to have to balance the business community. We're going to have to balance the unemployment. There's just so much to deal with this and how it's affected everyone in our state. You know, it's not just any individual. Every single person in the state of Florida has been touched by this. So I think that's probably going to be one of our single largest things of this session. Obviously, next session, we're going to talk about redistricting. We're going to talk and so much more, but that during this 2-year session, those are quite a few things I think that we're going to be talking about.
Picking up on that theme as we turn to Representative Kelly Skidmore, same question. What would be the top issues? How specifically do you address them? And given the budget shortfall, and perhaps all of you can pick up on this theme, what might be on the chopping block? What will you absolutely say we will not allow to be on the chopping block in this COVID and we hope post-COVID world? Representative Skidmore, 1 minute.
Thank you for the question. So the biggest pots of money in the Florida budget are education and healthcare. And over the last number of years, we haven't invested that much in either of those two big pots of money. So it's going to be a very big challenge. Our Medicaid enrollment increased by 500,000 people because so many people have lost their workplace benefits. We're going to be dealing with unemployment. We're going to be dealing with mental health issues, all with, as you said, Michael, the overlay of COVID impacting all of these. We also need to deal with business and healthcare liability protections that are related to COVID. So those are some big issues. I think everything we touch, from schools to ALFs to professions, is going to have that COVID overlay.
Representative Silver is only one person here. Representative Roth sits in the majority in Tallahassee. All of you as Democrats are going to have to deal with that majority. Same question on issues that will be a priority. And where do you think the fights will revolve around? What will be on the chopping block given the budget shortfall, and what you all will fight tooth and nail to make sure are sacrosanct and are not touched? And I know there's a lot to touch on there, but give the survey, the members who put these survey questions in, your first 100,000 foot level thoughts, Representative Silvers.
Well, initially, thank you very much for the question, Michael. But initially, I have to agree with Representative Wilhite and Representative Skidmore. It's going to be it's going to be the tax base. Unfortunately, I'm on Ways and Means, which is the tax package, and I'm also on Tourism and Infrastructure Appropriations, which is a subcommittee to full appropriations. And it's been pretty much made very clear to us that there are going to be cuts across the board. Whether or not entire programs are going to be cut, I doubt it, but probably, hopefully, that everything is proportional. Representative Skidmore made a really interesting point. We spend the most on healthcare and on education in our state. I don't want to see cuts to education. I don't want to see cuts to healthcare. And I mentioned before, mental health has been my priority, specifically mental health in our schools. So my priorities really across the way, across both areas, are probably going to get hit, unfortunately. Where can we cut? The question was, where can we cut back? Or
what are the areas that are sacrosanct? And you've touched on some you're worried about being cutting. Briefly, as we move on to Representative Roth, but finish up your thoughts, sir.
Well, the area that's sacrosanct to me would be education and our healthcare system, and how those two interact, specifically with mental health for children.
Representative Roth, Republicans, of course, will have the dominant say in the majority in the legislature. So the same question, priorities and what will be prioritized. And for people sitting watching, you're saying, I hear the policy debate, but I want to know how it's going to directly impact me. What do you want to prepare your constituents for in Palm Beach County as to what they might expect in terms of cutbacks and things you'll fight to the end to say we can't let these go? Give them some specifics, sir. Representative Roth.
Yes, sir. I think we're going to find that the budget shortfall is going to be a little bit less than the projections. The numbers that have come in since August are better than they were in August. And I think we will do a little bit better, but I think it's a good position to take that we are going to have a $2.7 billion shortfall. I'm one of the people that is in favor of doing some bonding. I'm concerned. Water quality issues was #1 in 2018, and I would like to see continued funding for conservation lands, the Rural Family Lands Conservation Program. And if we can get agreement to bond that type of program, we know that real estate sales are up 20% and people are moving to Florida, and we need to protect our natural resources. That is one of my concerns that we may have difficulty with. Having President Simpson and Speaker Sprowls, I hope to be able to get some good, significant adoption legislation passed. And then I think the third issue that's going to be talked about a lot is HB1, combating public disorder and rioting and all that. And also Senator Farmer has filed a bill on.
So we'll need to wrap. We're going to have to wrap your 1 minute there, but we certainly can come back to some of these themes. Representative Hardy, as we move through, I'm still, I think people at home are saying, I hear about overarching cuts, but where's the rubber going to meet the road? For me, to your constituents, what do you prepare them for, and what you'll be fighting for as top issues, and what this budget shortfall may mean? Where will the battle lines be most concretely or sharply drawn? Representative Hardy.
Much as Representative Skidmore said, the things that we spend the most money on are education and healthcare, but those are things that I'm not willing to cede the fight on, frankly. And so I'm obviously informing my constituents that we are facing a very large budget shortfall, and that's going to be the most topical issue this legislative session. But I don't believe that we should be balancing the budget on the backs of working class people. We just received a presentation yesterday from the CFO of the school district, and it came out again that we are ranked 4th from the bottom in education spending per student. Please tell me why education should be on the chopping block. It's absolutely unconscionable that at this time, when we really have lots of needs to be addressed, that we're even considering those things. So I can't cede that. I recognize that that is going to be the issue of the legislative session, but I'm not willing to cede the fight there. In addition to that, HB1 will be an issue. I consider it to be an attack on our First Amendment rights, on our constitutional rights. I conceive it as an attempt to chill our freedom of expression and our right to protest. And in addition to that, I see it as a very dangerous incursion on home rule, forcing local governments to go to the executive of the state of Florida if they want to adjust their budgets.
Please begin to wrap, Mr. Hardy.
So yeah, no, there are obviously lots of issues that we're going to have to address. I'm not willing to back down from those fights at this time.
Senator Powell, you've heard what your colleagues have said. Same questions, same themes, same tough calls that will have to be made. Where are you, Senator Powell?
Thank you for that. The budget is one of the biggest issues we'll deal with. We've got a nearly $2 billion budget shortfall this year that we'll be dealing with. It's a couple estimates are different between the governor's estimates, the revenue estimating conference, but we'll have to deal with that. As it relates to healthcare, that's going to be major this year, especially with COVID-19. Mental health that Representative Silvers talked about is going to be a major challenge due to the pandemic. We've had a number, and we're 49th in the nation in terms of mental health as it is. So we're going to have to do a number of things to make sure we keep up there. The challenge is dealing with unemployment. The DEO Reemployment Assistance Program, where I'm working with Representative Anna Eskamani in the House, as well as my co-sponsors, Senator Polsky and Senator Berman, who are on here with us today, to make sure that we're able to increase unemployment benefits here in the state of Florida from the minimum of $32 to $275 to up to $500 a week and a minimum of $100 a week, and increasing the number of weeks that people can receive unemployment benefits here in Florida. Right now, a lot of people are facing some major challenges due to the pandemic.
Thank you, sir, very much. Senator Polsky.
Thank you, Michael. Of course, I agree with my colleagues about all the challenges we face. I'm proud to co-sponsor the bill of Senator Powell. We almost forgot about the unemployment debacle because now we are so fixated on the vaccine. But similarly, the system didn't work. There wasn't enough money or weeks for people. So that comes to mind as one of the top issues we're going to deal with as a legislative fix. And we have some great bills to work on to try to pursue that, I hope in a bipartisan manner, to fix that system for everyone. I sit on Education Approach, so I will have the opportunity to fight for our public school funding. This is not the time for us to cut. We have to give more money to public schools, and the money is there. We just have to have our priorities straight. I will be proposing legislation to move around some money that I think should not be in certain projects, that should go to general revenue and to help our state. And finally, there are opportunities for revenue. There's an internet sales tax bill, which I will vote for. There's opportunity for Florida Film and TV to bring in some money. There's opportunities in gaming, perhaps sports betting. There are ways that we can earn money that are less traditional and maybe not as popular in the past, but now that
Senator.
we need the money, it's time to take another look.
Thank you so much. And Senator Berman.
Thank you. Last but not least on this one. So what I'd like to see us address is the 4 crises that the state is facing right now: COVID, the economy, racial injustice, climate change. I'm worried we're not going to address those issues, and we're focusing on things like HB1, the protest bill. I know that the budget is going to be a big problem. I concur with Senator Polsky. There's a lot of opportunity for us to bring in more money. I would add to that list criminal justice reform. We can do that, and that would also put more money into the budget. I think sacrosanct to me is education and healthcare. The area I'm most concerned that I think you will see problems in is affordable housing. I anticipate that they will again attempt to sweep the Sadowski Affordable Housing Fund, and we will see that probably. So if that's it's important for all of us, and we're going to work on fighting that issue also. Thank you.
We're going to move to other questions. Show of hands, is revenue raising going to be a go or no go in a Republican-led legislature? A show of hands, how big a fight that's going to be from Democrats. You talked about, go ahead, Senator, very briefly here, and then we'll get back to survey questions.
Michael, one of the things we're hearing right away this week is the internet sales tax bill. It's being heard. It's been put on the agenda. So there is already discussion of revenue raising.
Representative Rick Roth, as our lone Republican here, will that fly? Briefly on this one. Your mic, sir. Your mic. It happens on Zoom. We'll get back to them. Let's move on though. Thematically, I'm looking at the importance of the survey questions, but to keep a theme going, I'm going to move around just a bit because you all talked about education. And among those of you joining, one of your big questions was, and you've talked about it, but let's dig a little deeper. A large part of our state budget, this questioner asked, is traditionally used to support education, or questioners, I should say. Certainly with our budget shortfalls, all areas may suffer cuts. These questioners worry, these chamber members. If there are cuts to education, they ask, how will you prioritize what the legislature should fund and what it may cut or be compelled to cut in education? We'll go back around the loop, beginning with Senator Berman. 1 minute, and please keep it to 1 minute each. Thank you.
Thank you. I sit on the Education Committee, and in terms of policy, what I think we need to prioritize our traditional public schools. We have to remember that 90% of the children in the state of Florida attend a traditional public school. Only 10% attend charter schools, and we put a lot of money into that 10%. So I want to continue to make sure that education doesn't get cut. And like Representative Hardy said, this is your priorities. This is the opportunity for the state to show where it is. Just like we do our own budgets and we figure out where our family priorities are, I think we need to do a state budget and recognize that education should be a priority. And it's time that we stop being at the bottom in terms of funding. And I will fight to make sure that we don't do any cuts. And Monday, okay, I got to cut off there because we're toward the end. Thank you.
Thank you, and you'll have more time to pick up on that theme. Thank you all for bearing with this new Zoom world where we're trying to telepathically read each other's body language as we move on. But Senator Polsky, same question, with education being what, about not quite a third, but as you look at the budget, such a big part. The question about if there have to be cuts, where do you hold the line? You heard the question, your chance to respond, Senator Polsky.
I agree with Senator Berman. 90% of our students go to public schools. And so this is not the time to do it. This is not the time to increase the money we put into voucher schools. Let's just hold it steady. And we have to actually increase our funding for public schools because the public schools went into debt in order to fund the cleaning, the PPE, the rearranging. They couldn't do teacher cuts because of what was going on. And so they're really in the hole. So we have to support them. Let's give our school the opportunity to make the decisions they need to make. We have to give a good base student allocation so they get the money and let them make the decisions on how they have to spend it. One thing we could not spend on this year is PICO dollars, construction projects for charter schools or private schools who receive voucher money, because then we don't need to do construction projects this year. If we have to take 1 year breath from it, then let's do that. But I say keep funding public schools and increase it even more.
Senator Powell, you're a veteran up there. Do you see holding the line? Do you see ultimately being able to hold the line on any significant cuts of education? That's the theme of the question. Your thoughts, Senator Powell, 1 minute, sir.
Absolutely. I would agree with everything that my colleagues have said. There's going to be a big fight with regard to choice this year. It's going to be important that we are cognizant of that. One of the other things I would say is we really need to focus on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, because a lot of the students who we send to our schools, the problem we're facing is that students, many of them are homeless, and that provides a stability problem. So my other issue is we need to fight for the fact that we need to fight for affordable housing and people to be able to have a place to live.
And in fact, it's one of the questions that was top of mind for those who participated in the survey with the chamber. We will get to that with a greater degree of detail in a moment. We'll get to that very question. Representative Roth, you're there. At the end of the day, you hear it's the annual battle between public and charter schools. Will we be able to avoid significant cuts to the public education budget? Where do you stand? Where do you think your Republican colleagues are on this most central issue? You heard the question from survey members of the chamber. Go ahead, sir.
I think this is something we all agree on. I think the legislature spoke last year strongly, even seeing COVID coming down the pike, that we did fund the teacher salary increase. And I think we are very much committed to that. I think we are going to have to look at FTEs. If there's a decrease in staffing in education and other agencies, that's probably where we're going to see some of the cuts. But I think in general, we're going to hold the line.
Representative Hardy.
Yes. Let's just run through some numbers here. We're the third largest state in America by population. We have the fourth largest economy. We have 19 Fortune 500 companies in the state of Florida, yet we rank fourth from the bottom in education spending per student. We rank last in the country in high school graduation rates for children who are living in poverty. And we just received a presentation yesterday that showed that, yes, starting teachers have been bumped up to $47,500 a year, but teachers entering their 10th year are making $49,000 a year. That is not a career, that's a trap. And so I don't see any reason why education cuts should be at all on the table. And it is true that 90% of our students are attending public schools and only 10% of our students are attending charter schools. Yet when it came to PICO dollars, those capital dollars, charter schools received 75% of the money. That makes absolutely no sense, and that absolutely must be addressed. There are ways to balance this budget, but it cannot be done by cutting the thing that we're going to need to become the state that we all want it to be.
Thank you. And Representative Silvers, pick up on the question and theme, sir. 1 minute.
I want to echo the sentiments of Representative Hardy and Senator Berman, Senator Polsky, but also this is something that no one's brought up yet, and it's standardized testing. A lot of people don't realize that the standardized testing it's not done for free. It takes up a lot of school time, and a lot of parents are very frustrated because their children have testing anxiety and they're 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. Maybe we cut back on some of that standardized testing. I'm not saying get rid of testing altogether, but maybe not focus, let the teachers teach. And I think that's an area where we could actually maybe save some money and actually not cut back from our education system and use that money towards resources for the teachers.
Representative Kelly Skidmore.
Thank you, Michael, for the question. And I'll reiterate that for the last 25 years, we have not been investing in public education, in traditional public schools. So we've been behind the 8 ball for all of these years. You don't rank 46th in the country because you've been investing in education. So our school districts are striving for mediocrity. They're striving just to get to the middle. And that is not what the state of Florida should be about. There are priorities that need to be made regarding how we spend our money. We have $90 billion to spend. I have always encouraged citizens throughout the state to go through the budget. You will be amazed at what you see in there. You will be surprised at what the state spends taxpayer dollars on. The fact of the matter is, the citizens of Florida should hold us all accountable for what our spending is.
But you do have a shortfall. Everybody's been talking about it at every level of government. So the bottom line, and I'm not sure people at home, part of the chamber, are hearing the answer. You're talking about what you won't cut. But at the end of the day, Representative Wilhite, as you answer the question, what are the tough calls on things that you need to prepare constituents for that may well be cut? If you can wrap that into the theme of the overall question about education, sir.
Well, thank you, Michael. And, you know, so many of my colleagues have talked about education, and, you know, I have two young sons in fifth and seventh grade right now in public school. Let's not forget the impact that it's putting on the parents or your chamber's workforce to have to help their kids at home right now, because only 43% of the population of kids in school right now are actually in classrooms. So your workforce is actually trying to help their kids, educate them, teach them, and they're just supplementing helping our education system right now, yet trying to carry on full-time jobs and help your workforce and your businesses there. So, you know, this is an unintended consequence of this COVID. But, you know, they've started to warn us that one of the biggest cuts in education is going to come from secondary or college. And so how do we expect kids to be able to afford to go to college and to get into your members' workforce and help our economy if they can't afford to go? And, you know, we keep saying, oh, you say that our members are talking about how, you know, it's a non-starter and a budget shortfall. Well, but aren't our kids in our schools right now the future leaders of this country? They're the future workers of our businesses. How can we just say, well, they're going to have to take a little cut? Well, I don't accept that. I mean, education is the foundation and the basis for everyone's future of their life. And so, you know, if we have to work harder, but I really, as Representative Hardy and Skidmore said, they're not striving for middle. They're striving to not be the last in the United States of America in education. We're 46th out of 50. If we're the third largest state economy, how can we be so far at the bottom?
What goes then? What are the tough choices? Because I still hear people sitting at home in my mind saying, we hear it, we understand it's a big, tough debate. I want to do this just briefly and get back on the questions. I just want your most candid assessment. What would be the biggest program to close this gap that you'd say, this has got to go? You've talked about what stays. 10 seconds each, top of mind thought. Representative Wilhite, 10 seconds each, then we'll get back to questions. There's going to be tough choices. What's the toughest one you're willing to make on what stays, what goes? Quickly around the horn here.
Again, I think in some aspects, many of my members are concerned about corporate handouts. And Representative Skidmore has mentioned about how much there is for out-of-state corporate coming in here. Let's take care of our businesses are here, our small business, our education, and our healthcare, our foundation.
Let's move. I want to move quickly on this to get back to questions. Representative Skidmore, tough choices. What's your answer?
There are some services that we provide in the state of Florida that I don't think we should be providing. One of them that I have fought against for many years is crisis pregnancy centers. It may seem like a small amount of money because it's $5 million a year, but you add it up over the last 20 years and it's a fortune.
Representative Silvers.
Sorry about that. I would probably go with, it pains me to say this, but probably any type of marketing for our state. I was just on a call a couple of days ago with individuals that we were talking about how we need to further market the state of Florida because other states are marketing themselves. It's a different landscape now, but at the end of the day, let's cut the marketing now because we don't have to cut education and healthcare and infrastructure.
Representative Roth, from a Republican point of view, we talk about corporations paying fair shares. Any of that going to fly in the Republican legislature this year?
I'm going to give you the same answer I gave before, that that we need to get students back to school, and we need to get teachers back to school too. But in light of that, I think you are going to see some cuts in FTEs and as a way to cut the budget.
Will big revenue raisers and corporations would be a source of that? Would that be on the table from a Republican perspective? You all control the chambers, yes or no?
Not sure on that one, sorry.
Representative Hardy, your thoughts briefly on this, then we'll move back to questions from chamber participants.
Say it with me. We can fund public education if we stop cutting taxes for large corporations. That has been one of the largest expenditures over the last 20 years in the state of Florida. We have to stop that.
Whether that flies in the Republican-led legislature, though, is the annual debate. which leads to the same question year after year between both sides, and you at home can judge the merits or demerits of that. But Senator Powell, same question briefly on this, then we'll get back to our participant questions.
Things we can do. We can make sure that the internet sales tax is collected here in the state of Florida. And every year in the budget, if you look, we put about $3 billion away in reserves for a rainy day. Guess what? We're at a rainy day. Amy Baker talks about a Black Swan event. We just had one. Use some of that money we have in reserves to fill up our budget. We're going to still be able to put reserves away, just not as much.
Senator Polsky, briefly on this then, and then we'll get back on track a little bit on some specific survey participant questions. Briefly here.
I believe there are several millions of dollars sitting in an account for the MCOR's Road to Nowhere, and I'm looking at legislation to put that back into general revenue.
Senator Berman.
If I had my way, I would look at all the sales tax exemptions that we do in the state. There's over 240 sales tax exemptions for things like sports boxes at all the Dolphin stadiums, things like that. It's a lot of money, and if we looked at some of that, we could bring back money into the budget.
What I hear from this almost exclusively, not quite Representative Roth, Democratic-led delegation is the money's there. If there's a willingness to go after it and get it, we'll see if that happens. It's an annual debate. Thematically, a lot of you have talked about workforce and housing, and we're going to get to those themes because that actually is what chamber participants have been asking. So we'll get to those. I want you at home to know that, but also a lot of you at home not only asking your legislators, but certainly asking us every day, I know at Channel 5, about the next question that survey participants put together from the chamber. They ask, the distribution of the COVID vaccine. What can be done to improve the situation in fulfilling supply and demand? And the next question, but we can put them together. What steps should be taken to increase the availability of the vaccine to healthcare workers, nursing home residents, and those over age 65? Senator Berman, we'll begin with you and work our way back around.
You're muted, Lori.
You're muted.
I knew I would do it once today. I
That's
hope it's
okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Michael. It's a great question and it's on everyone's mind. We've seen, there is a supply problem and it's a nationwide supply problem. And we're all working with the Department of Health, our local Department of Health, as well as the state Department of Health and the emergency management divisions. But what we can be doing is getting a better website and a better way for people to sign up for the vaccines. There is a proposal within the next week or so to get a new statewide website. We should have had that in the beginning. I don't know what happened, why we dropped the ball on that, but we saw in Palm Beach County, we had our crazy website, people are signed up for it and now they're being called, but it's a long process. Now in Broward County, they have a phone number, people are getting through. I'm hoping that we'll soon have our own system in Palm Beach County that will be a lot more efficient and that will help everybody sign up and get their vaccines.
Senator Polsky.
One thing we can look forward towards, because there's a lot of mistakes that have already happened, but going forward, we have a new administration in Washington and they have promised to do better and they're basically starting from scratch. And unfortunately, our governor has already said he's not interested in federal help. And that is not the way to start this process. We need all the help that we can get. It is not working. And to disregard it right out of hand makes no sense to me. Let's take the help that is being offered. Once it comes, I think in a week or so, we're going to see a whole different picture. And it's really upsetting how it has been rolled out thus far. We also have to set expectations appropriately. I think 65 is a little young, no offense to anyone. It should be 75 and older. There were just not enough vaccines. This was not well thought out. Let's take whatever help is being offered to us going forward. This is not a political issue.
Senator Powell.
As it relates to the vaccine, I can tell you we have to have consistent communication, pre-planning, increasing the supply, working together with the state. I will go a little bit different and say that with the issue being 65 and older, the plan, the strategy, the rollout has been a little bit difficult, but as quickly as we can get it to people, we have to. And the challenge has been, unfortunately, with the governor saying 65 and older, we've had people come from other states to try to get vaccinated here in Florida, which has been a problem. But what we have to recognize and realize is right now, our seniors are important. Even if it is 65 and older, it's better than us allowing everybody to apply for the vaccine. So there's some hangups. We have to work together, but supply is really a big issue for now. And currently at about 1 million 1.8 million people to be vaccinated so far, and total, the people here in Palm Beach County who've had both shots have only been about 5,000.
Representative Hardy, what are your hopes that with the new administration, we speed and change the process, given that they're promising the Biden administration that it will, and also continue to pick up on that theme in the more broad question that was presented by our participants about making sure it gets to healthcare workers and different age groups and so on and so forth.
One of the things that makes me hopeful as we've sworn in a new president and vice president is the fact that we have leaders in this country who believe in government, who believe that government is capable of taking care of these things like distributing free vaccines in a pandemic. Right. And one of the frustrations that I've had is that in our state, we have people who have run for government office and yet who don't believe in the ability of government to deliver. And so, for example, we've seen 30,000 vaccines diverted from the public sector, which is responsible for making sure that these vaccines are distributed equitably into the private sector, into publics. Well, I have a district that is majority African-American, largely working class. The one Publix in Riviera Beach wasn't one of the Publixes that got access to the vaccine. And there are folks, I have a family member who was up at 6 o'clock this morning with 8 tabs open on her computer trying to register her family members to get the vaccine. That's not something that very many working class people are going to be able to do. So I'm hopeful, given who's in office right now, that we're going to have an adult approach to this vaccine distribution, because what we're doing isn't working.
Representative Roth, what specific steps, if you can put some meat on the bone about what we can do to work? Yes, Republican-led legislature, Republican in the governor's mansion, but the Biden administration's extending its offer to integrate that. Will it be integrated? Will we see the Republican leadership here really work to integrate efforts with the Biden administration? What specific steps do you see us taking concretely to answer the question put forth by our chamber members? Sir? Sir? You can't. There you go, sir. There you go.
Don't take that time away from me, please. So I think we all agree on the general issue that the two issues are really communication and getting the website up, as Senator Berman said, is really been the major crux of the problem. The second part is we had a plan in place, but it keeps getting changed. You're having the federal government not giving the information. We don't know how many vaccines are going to be 2 weeks down the road. It's just, oh, we're going to get this, but we don't get it. So communication is definitely the problem. I think the good news is that Palm Beach County does have a 25% over 65 years old, and we are starting to get the recognition that Palm Beach County needs to be in the front of the line in getting the vaccines. Why we weren't included with the first 5 hospitals, I'll never know. So I think it's a communication problem.
Representative Silvers.
All right, thank you for that. How my approach would be, I would have more communication, more coordination with the federal government. I wouldn't be telling the federal government, no thanks, we don't need your help. So I'm going to echo Senator Polsky's comment there. And on top of that, I think we should be having vaccination locations based on population density of those that are 65 and over. And Palm Beach County, as you know, probably has the largest density, or the densest population of those that are population that's over 65. So I would want a hub here in Palm Beach County to vaccinate everybody in Palm Beach County, and if possible, people in Broward and Martin County. But
you all will be pushing for that in the session?
Oh yeah, I'd be pushing for that.
Representative Skidmore, what specific steps, when people say, okay, I hear all this, but I want to get the shots in the arm, what do you think you all can do to push that, make sure it happens more expeditiously?
Have a plan, have an actual plan that we can execute, that decisions aren't consolidated in one person's office, that there's collaboration, that there's communication. We have our departments of health, again, have not been invested in for 25 years. They're doing the best they can, and they are as much in the dark as our residents are. So we need better communication. We need an actual plan that is executable, that doesn't change every other day.
Representative Wilhite.
Well, thank you. Obviously, as a first responder, as a healthcare worker, this is important to me. I was fortunate enough to get it because of my profession, but I'm going on calls every day, and I'm hearing people. I have people calling my office. They're scared. They don't want to go out. They're worried about it. They're clamoring to get into all these websites, emails. They're signing up multiple places, 5, 6, 7 different places to try and sign to get up from. I think distribution and communication has been part of our biggest problem. We weren't in the top 5 hospitals in the state. We weren't in the first round of Publixes went to 11 areas and counties that were half the population of Palm Beach County. If we're the epicenter in the first 3 counties, why didn't we get it proportionally? Across the United States, why didn't we get it proportionally? I hate to see Americans and Floridians fighting for other areas. This is not a political issue. This is not a state issue. This is obviously, but it's come down to the point that we have to fight for our residents, our citizens in our state to get the help we can. And it's sad that we've gotten to this, but we need to have better communication and better collaboration with the state and the federal government to get distribution, to get it in people's arms, to make sure we can start protecting people.
We're going to go to more questions that were part of the survey, but just as a follow-up, if there's one phone call we got as much as I'm worried about COVID, the impact on my family, it's been the outcry of people speaking of websites about what has almost universally been regarded as one of the worst efforts, worst systems for people in the heart of this pandemic. And even now we get complaints. People say, I cannot get through and get an answer on my unemployment benefits. It's probably the number one question we've gotten. Is there right now, or will there be a commitment to a sustained, formal, thorough review and overhaul of what's been universally described as one of the nation's worst unemployment websites for people who were in desperate need and sometimes spent weeks and still now can't get help? Specific answer on whether we're going to see that happen in this session. I'd like 20 or 30 seconds. Not everybody has to jump in. If you feel fiercely about it, raise your hands, but I want to hear specifics. Representative Wilhite, then Berman, since you raised your hands first.
Well, I think a problem we have is we have a company that failed us on the unemployment system, and we just awarded the same company another contract to start working on our healthcare system. How do we continue to give failing companies contracts for millions and millions and millions of dollars in the state and expect a different outcome?
Senator Berman, are we going to fix that, or are we just going to say, well, that's the way it is?
We are all part of the minority party, except for Rep. Roth, as you know. And Senator Powell has brought a great bill that Senator Polsky and I are co-sponsors of. We have, ways to start addressing it. Unfortunately, the company that has that we gave the original contract with, has had no repercussions in the state of Florida. But I am hopeful that we will start discussing it and that Senator Powell's bill will move forward when people will get higher amounts and longer amounts, and that the computer system will be fixed.
Representative Roth, speak to it. Republicans are in charge. It's been a chief complaint. Why hire the same company that didn't get the job done and give them a new contract?
That is the $64,000 question. It's very disconcerting. It's just unconscionable. It's a classic case of having new people running the agency and not being prepared to do it, and knowing that it was coming, but still didn't prepare it. So I'm very thankful that Senator Powell is running that bill. And this, like Representative Wilhite has said many times today, this is not a partisan issue. This is clearly something that is at the first priority.
Senator Powell, I see you literally shaking your head, and I could see it almost metaphorically as you were listening to this. I can see people at home saying, I don't get this. They get a contract. You've seen the record of what happened last year. Where do we go from here? How hopeful are you that we get real systemic deep answers for people who are going to continue to be in need, as our next questions will illustrate from our chamber members? Senator Powell.
Well, I echo all of my colleagues' sentiments. We shouldn't be rewarding people who failed us the first time. Where do we go from here? I'm not sure how they get the job done if they couldn't do the job the first place, but the biggest issue we have right now is fixing what's going on with unemployment. There are nearly 54% of the people who've applied have never received the first benefit since March. That is problematic. That's the biggest major downfall and drag on our economy. Even as we start to see our economy here in Florida turn around, you still got a number of people who are still behind because they've never got the first benefit.
But will it get fixed?
I can't answer that question because I'm not sure.
Wow. Senator Polsky, just briefly on that. We're a year in, and Senator Powell, who's knee deep in trying to rectify this, is candidly saying, we don't know if it'll get better. Quickly, Senator Polsky.
I'm optimistic that there will be changes. I personally met with Dane Eagle, who was a former representative who we all know from the chamber, and he is now running DEO. He is new to the position. He assured me that they are looking at either revamping the whole system, starting from scratch, or fixing what they have and moving forward. So I do feel optimistic. I think he's listening to us, and he's been one of us, so he understands. So I'm optimistic. I don't know, unfortunately, that a Democratic legislator's bill will go through, but I do think there will be improvements to the system. I can't say exactly what that will be, or the amount of money.
All right, Senator Powell, thank you for your candor, your frustration evident even over a Zoom call, and thank you all for your candor. Let's get back to a question. We talked about workforce housing. I know a number of you, affordable housing. Representative Silvers, you and others mentioned it right off the bat. We'll begin here with Representative Wilhite and work our way back up the line. Here was a question from chamber participants to the very point. With a workforce housing shortage in Palm Beach County, how do we resolve this so our workforce can live and work in the same county? And in this age of COVID, it's a much more pronounced problem. What specifically, given those budget shortfalls, but also given the concern, what could realistically come out of the legislature, again, to address the workforce housing shortage that is even more pronounced now with COVID? Representative Wilhite, we'll start with you 1 minute, sir.
Well, first of all, we have to recognize that workforce housing across the state has different meanings to it. Places in Hendry County or Gilchrist County have a difference than in Palm Beach County. And Senator Powell and I have talked about how buying a house in Palm Beach County, the median price is $325,000 versus if you go to some of our other rural counties, it may be $60,000 and $80,000. So we have to recognize that across the state. And again, these urban counties like Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach are going to be different than other areas, obviously. And it's very important to the chamber members. But, you know, we just passed, the voters just passed an increase in minimum wage that'll help start to increase the income for some of our families that are trying to, you know, make ends meet to be able to buy a house. But we know that obviously family and household is the basis for, you know, a future, and putting these kids in and having a, you know, a warm bed to live in or an education, and, you know, and to strive to do better. But we need to stop sweeping the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to pay and fund other projects, other areas of the budget. You know, we talk revenues, we need to do other things, but stop taking away from what is one of the bases for our future.
Representative Skidmore, again, with a workforce housing shortage, how do we resolve? People looking for specific answers. How do we, can we begin to get back on that path in this session? Representative Skidmore, 1 minute.
So if you're asking the Democrats, we have a different answer than the Republicans. The Democrats say, put all the Sadowski money into affordable housing and what it was entrusted. That's why it's called a trust fund. But unfortunately, our Republican leadership doesn't look at it that way. And it's not just during a pandemic. They've been sweeping that fund for years to fill in holes in the budget here and there. It is not supposed to be a slush fund for the legislators to go to. It is meant for affordable housing. So if you're asking the Democrats here, all of the money should go to affordable and workforce housing.
Representative Silvers.
Thank you. Well, last 4 years, I've sponsored legislation to make the Sadowski Trust Fund to be unsweepable and funds to be used for their intended purpose for workforce and affordable housing throughout our state. It has been bipartisan. I've run that bill with Renee Placencia in Orlando and Sam Killebrew in the center part of the state. They're both Republicans. There are some Republicans that are in favor of it, but as a whole, in leadership in the chamber, doesn't seem to be, unfortunately, because we don't get a hearing in those bills. We're following the same bill this year, and I'm hoping for the best. I hope we can get a hearing on this side of this chamber, and hopefully in the Senate chamber as well. Now, this past session, or after this past session, the Florida Housing Coalition named myself and Rep. Killebrew Legislators of the Year for affordable housing. We appreciated it, but we both were kind of shocked because why? We felt as though maybe it was sending the wrong message because we hadn't had the bill passed. But we're going to work our tail off this year, and hopefully we can get it passed. At least
Representative Roth, you've heard the critique from your Democratic colleagues. Your response, and also more broadly to the question posed by chamber participants, sir.
Well, I have good news for you. There is a maybe relatively small, but there is a group of Republicans in the legislature, in the leadership, that does agree with everything that's being said. We as the legislature have to have our key principles being accountability and transparency. We did that with Visit Florida and other things, and I think we can do that with Sadowski. To me, it's just unconscionable. And by the way, we did not sweep the funds this past year. It was the governor that actually took some of the money. So my understanding is the money is still in Sadowski. And I am part of that group that is working with the leadership to make sure that Sadowski is not swept. If you need to change how we do it so that then we can follow the rules, my goal is to follow the rules. It's called a trust fund, just like Representative Skidmore said. It's really very clear.
We'll need to wrap it.
By the way,
Briefly.
by the way, 20% increase in real estate sales in the state of Florida. So Sadowski should not have a problem.
Sir, thank you for the clarification and for your insight. We turn to Representative Hardy. Same issue, same concern. How do we get from here to there?
It's called a trust fund. You should be able to trust the legislature to fund it. As Representative Rick Roth said, the governor did veto one of the line items in this trust fund, and so it's sitting there unused. I would like to see that money from last year used for affordable housing, and I would like to see this money from this year used for affordable housing. And then after that, because there aren't just funding issues, there are also issues with respect to land use and regulation at the local level. We are a growing state. There are about 1,000 people moving to the state of Florida every single day. We need to build new housing. And what that means is that local governments have to be willing to accommodate the new Floridians who are coming here. We cannot build a wall around South Florida and ask New York to pay for it. And it's irresponsible for us to have local government regulations that make it very difficult for folks to build the types of housing that working class people can afford. So that has to be addressed as well.
Senator Powell, you touched on this issue earlier in the conversation, and as we said, chamber participants as well. So your ongoing thoughts, and again, to pick up on a theme you touched on earlier, sir.
It's a deeper conversation. When you talk about it, people have mentioned zoning and issues we've seen. It's bananas, which is built absolutely nothing anywhere near anything. And in Palm Beach County, we've actually ran out of space. So we have to start considering building up and having more densely populated developments when we start to build. But that's not a state issue. It's really a local issue. The state issue is we need to fund the Housing Trust Fund. We also need to provide incentives for some of those jobs that people work that they're not making the amount of money where people should live, but they have very important jobs. Police officers, firefighters, teachers. Teachers don't make enough to live here in Palm Beach County, as you heard Representative Wilhite say. With the with the average household costing about $350,000, most people can't afford to buy a house here in Palm Beach County. Most of us on here as legislators, we're not feeling that impact as much because most legislators on this Zoom, we already own a home. But for the people who don't own homes, it's a problem.
Thank you, sir. Senator Polsky.
Thank you, Michael. It's kind of ironic that during this awful economy and people losing their jobs, that the cost of housing has gone up in Palm Beach County. So it's even more unaffordable to live here for many people. There's been a housing boom, which the good news is Sadowski Fund should be well funded once all the calculations are done. You asked earlier, how do we get from here to there? If the county gets the money that is supposed to be coming to us in our proper proportion for Sadowski, the plans are there, the developers are there, people are ready to go. So there will be affordable housing, workforce housing built if the money is there. So we're in a really difficult time because we live in an area that is expensive and has only gotten more expensive during this really difficult time. So I, of course, agree with my colleagues completely that we have to fully fund Sadowski and it doesn't affect the rest of the budget. That is not money to play with. It is just for that.
For those of you participating in this conversation, chamber members who are part of this, listening to our legislators, by the way, if you have some questions, now that you've heard and gotten a sense of some of the bearings of where they are heading the session, give us your questions. We'll try and pop up a few as well as we also go through the list that you at home, that you, the chamber participants, put together, which is the sheet that we've been working off because it's you who ultimately are the people who they are answerable to. And Senator Berman, to the question we've talked about, your answer, and we'll see if we get some more questions in, but go ahead, Senator.
Sure, absolutely. Going last, I can't help but agree with everything that my colleagues have said. Fully fund Sadowski. The money is, we in the legislature don't build the houses, but the counties and the cities do. And the counties and the cities have plans and they're ready to go, but we just don't have the money to do them.
The chamber survey participants asked supports economic development, of course, and we think the question says that our public colleges play a large role in workforce development. Do you support? Let's just get a brief answer on this. Do you support funding for workforce development for the Florida college system and more specifically Palm Beach State? Maybe one or two of you weigh in on that. Is there going to be money for that? Where are we with that? Where might we be to this question about specific workforce development money, forgive me, for the Florida college system and specifically Palm Beach State? Representative Skidmore, you want to grab that one? Go ahead. And then Senator Powell.
Thank you so much, Michael. I think there's no greater time than the one we're in now, where we need to be re-educating our workforce with opportunities for the future jobs. That is something that we need to do now. Again, it's about prioritizing where the money goes. The money is there. So I'm confident that we will be able to get our colleagues to understand the importance of workforce development at this point in time.
Representative Hardy and then Senator Powell, and then we'll move on to our next survey participant question, or if we see some pop up, but let's try and keep it to 30 here. Senator Powell first, then Representative Hardy. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you,
Senator
Michael.
Powell.
We're in the midst of a tech revolution. Artificial intelligence is on the rise. We have to make sure we're educating the next generation of workers so that they are taking care of the jobs that will be here. Nobody's filling out applications to work at a toll plaza anymore, and nobody's filling out applications to work as a cashier. They are, but that's going away. We have to make sure that we're educating the workforce for the next generation of jobs, which includes a lot of artificial intelligence.
But will the money be there for this aspirational goal that so many chamber members say, especially in this tight budget year? Will it be there, Representative Hardy? Can it be there?
Absolutely.
Will it be there?
It must be there. We've cut funding for our state colleges in consecutive years. We're asking for a larger cut this year than we have in previous years. And now we're asking the students to shoulder that burden by allowing the state colleges to raise tuition on them. That's absolutely unacceptable. Our workforce is important. We have to invest in them. And I don't want to see any cuts to state colleges. The money is there, as Representative Skidmore says, it's there, but it's a question of what we will prioritize when we produce this document, which is a moral document, the budget of the state of Florida. We can't cut funding for our public colleges, not at all.
We'll begin with Senator Berman on this one. Another question on our list of top 10 from participants. With the pandemic causing such huge job loss, what measures need to be taken? And I would submit what really can be taken in this session to stimulate the economy and create jobs. Tourism, of course, is the big driver. We've talked about perhaps having to cut back on monies for marketing and the like, and yet tourism is what, $70, $80 billion a year industry here. So you're between a little bit of a rock and a hard place, but what can you do specifically to try and jumpstart and help stimulate jobs, to this person's question, and create those jobs, stimulate the economy? Senator Berman, we'll start with you and then work our way around.
I mean, this is a tough question because in the state of Florida, we have a balanced budget. So it's not like we can print money, but the federal government does. And the biggest thing I would say is we need to pass the new proposal from President Biden, and that would bring money down and that will help create jobs. We're going to do what we can to help our small businesses, but it's going to be hard to have marketing dollars. I mean, I support the film tax incentives that there was a bill filed for that. I think that brings people to the state when they see movies that take place and are filmed here in the state and how nice our weather is all year round. But it's going to be tough. And I think we really need to depend on the federal government to help out a lot to address that issue.
Senator Polsky, Senator Berman raises a good point. What do you say to all the people joining in this conversation who have or have had a small business, who are the backbone of the chamber, the backbone of Florida, about how we can continue to help them? They've been so ravaged in many cases. Should they have any expectation of real help per the question about what you all can do this session, Senator Polsky?
I don't believe there's going to be help from the state government for individual businesses. It's just not how we roll,
or collectively. Yeah.
Well, the federal government, I believe, will, the stimulus payments that they will give could help everyone. And, especially individuals who have filed for unemployment. If we fix the unemployment system, people will get more money. When people get money at this level, then they spend it. And we're getting an influx of individuals, as I mentioned before. So many people are moving here. They were before the pandemic, and it's even more now. There's a lot of business that is coming into actually the Palm Beach area, hedge funds, big businesses from New York and California. I know our religious day schools have a bust in a boom, in enrollment because people are moving here from other states. So I'm really not concerned about people spending money here because they are, and they're here and they're ready to go. As long as we get some individual help for people and they will spend that money, they will go food shopping, and the economy will reinvigorate once we get a little help for individuals.
Senator Powell.
Thank you, Michael. I believe that financial stimulus has to happen to continue. We have to vaccinate our essential workers once the supply has increased so that they can return to work without any fear of illness. Provide childcare services, both on the front end for early childhood as well as after school services. And we need to stimulate our economy, but in a healthy way to make sure that we can support our small businesses and our major corporations when they're continuing to put our workforce back in place.
Representative Hardy.
Yeah, many of the things that we've been talking about already are the things that we can do to stimulate our economy. When we're talking about making sure that we're keeping money in the housing trust fund, that's making money available to people who are building things, employing people, making it easier for people to find homes that they can afford so that they can have money left over for spending out in the real economy. We talk about education, making sure that that's not cut. The single largest employer in Palm Beach County is the school district, and that's the case in most counties in the state of Florida. So when we cut these things, it's almost like we're hurting ourselves because we are cutting jobs away from the single largest employer in most of our counties. We talk about healthcare, which we obviously need to fund. There are lots of people who that sector employs, and we talked about unemployment insurance. There are lots of folks who could have done much better if they had access to the benefits that they have a right to have, but because the system has been so broken and because the benefits have been so meager, it just hasn't worked for them. So if we want to stimulate the economy, we should do the sorts of things that we know government should do to begin with and do them well, and that will take care of things.
Representative Roth.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, sir, you're. That's okay.
Obviously, the unemployment compensation issue and the new federal stimulus packages are going to be a big help. I just want to put in a good plug that I'm thankful that we've been able to open up the economy in South Florida as much as we have. We are in a very tough situation, but I think the county did a great job of trying to open up the county in a safe, effective way. I am very much concerned about the tourist industry. I'm happy to see air travel to Palm Beach County increasing. I think we're on the good side and things are going to get better, but I would like to see a lot more information given by state or federal government on the benefit of taking the vaccine. This idea that you have healthcare workers that are not being vaccinated just kind of surprises me. The goal really is to open up the economy, and vaccinations is the answer.
Senator Powell. Senator Powell.
Sorry, I had to hit my unmute button.
That's okay, sir.
I would say along those same lines, making sure that I thought I already answered this question.
I think you did. I was looking at the next slide. I said, wait a minute, I'm having a moment of deja vu.
I was going to give you some new answers, but
no, that's I'm sure you could. And by the way,
we jumping around a little bit.
I know that any one of you could talk in depth for a long time. What we always hope to do is give chamber members a chance to say, let me pick up on that theme. But your moderator was looking, and by the way, when I keep looking off screen, it's at your questions at home that I'm making sure we get to. So we'll hold you in abeyance for a moment because we will have another question for you. But Representative Silvers, take it away, sir.
Thank you. I want to touch on something that Senator Berman brought up, bringing industry back to the state of Florida so we can generate revenue from other industries as well. I mean, we relied on tourism, real estate, and agriculture. Those are the big three in the state for decades. But we had film here for quite a while, and I actually sponsored film incentive bills the last couple terms. And we're seeing the entire film industry leave the state. I mean, people are leaving the state, and it's a shame because I think Senator Berman mentioned when you see a TV show or a movie filmed here, and it's basically it's free marketing, I guess you could say. People will come here and then they'll visit Florida and they'll spend dollars, and that's goes into the general revenue of our state. So I think it's extremely important to bring industry back, to not push industry away like film, and to bring it back. So I think that's extremely important. Trying to generate revenue and oh, sorry, I got to end.
No, that's okay, sir. Representative Kelly Skidmore.
Thank you for the question. I totally agree with Representative Roth. I heard on an NPR story this morning that Americans have saved $1.2 trillion during the pandemic. They are at some point going to be eager to get back to their previous lives where they spend that money in dining and entertainment and travel. So once we have ramped up the inoculation of our citizenry, we will reap the rewards of that savings. On a different note, I've been very involved in the creation of the Marine Research Hub of South Florida. I don't think that Florida has planted its flag in the blue economy. It's missing out. It's the most recognizable peninsula in the country, with the Gulf and the Atlantic and Lake Okeechobee and our springs and all the great thing and the Everglades. So we should take advantage of the assets that we have.
Representative Will Hite.
Well, thank you. I think a problem that we had initially when this pandemic started is there were some bridge loans that were offered from the state. We had one company in Miami-Dade County that applied and got 7 of them. We needed to proportionally share this across more businesses, not one company could take advantage of it and getting big chunks of that bridge loan money. That was a problem right off the bat from the state. We should have fixed that. My first session, many of us voted on Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida. And one of the things that I voted against was cutting Film Florida, because we know that shows like Burn Notice or Miami Vice or whatever, that tourism, that film industry brings a lot of wraparound services to it, which helps. But instead, this last year, we gave huge incentives to rental car companies. Well, if people were coming here to do film, they'd be renting cars anyway. But I want to answer a question that was posed to us all on the question and answer here. And they ask if Representative Roth and I talk about partisanship versus DC. I think we have a much better relationship in Tallahassee. We eat together, we talk together, we go to churches, service, different. I think we have a better relationship. Tallahassee is much better than DC, where they want to blame each other. We want to work with each other, because who benefits when we work together? The people of Florida. And so I think we have a better relationship. Philosophically, do we look at things differently sometimes? Yes. And I think the Democrats get a good say in Tallahassee. I just wish we got a better aspect of the budget of where we thought things could go to help more Floridians. And obviously, we need to make sure proportionally the money that goes to Tallahassee comes back. And Palm Beach County gives a lot of money to Tallahassee. We don't get it proportionally back, which would truly help Palm Beach County as a whole.
Any last Q&A questions from you at home? We're about to wrap it up. Please send them so we can see them. I'll let our moderators know I'm having trouble seeing some of those on my screen, so I'll count on you to get those for our lawmakers. I would say to you as my last question, and we'll start with you, Representative Will Hite, and we'll work in your questions at home as our moderators, as John and others may see those. At the end of the day, I read an article the other day that people are now, perhaps more than in any recent time, what can government concretely do to help my life right now with COVID, with all that's going on? So you've talked about a tough session ahead. You talked about tough choices. At the end of the session, what do you say to your constituents about where you have the best expectation of where they'll be in terms of success, in terms of where there may be real cuts, what they need to prepare for, and what you'll be doing for them COVID related in terms of interacting with the new Biden administration to help them improve their lives? Give people a sense of where you concretely expect them to be if you have your say and way in the end of the session. We'll begin with you, Representative Will Hite, and then move on down the line.
Well, I know the one thing we're going to do, because constitutionally we have to do, is pass a balanced budget. I want to make sure that the DeSantis administration has as good a relationship with the new Biden administration as they did with the Trump administration, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, again, what party. We're here to take care of all of Floridians. And we need to take advantage of the federal government if they want to offer federal assistance with COVID. But the number one thing that people are clamoring right now is vaccine, vaccine, vaccine. And in order to get this economy going, and let's face it, we need to make sure as lawmakers, elected officials, and leaders that we're advocating for people to get the vaccine. We have elected officials saying that we shouldn't take it. That's ridiculous. We should be trying to take it. They work so hard to get this vaccine in place. Again, I signed up on day one to get it. I think we need to get our economy going, and the vaccine is the true way to prosperity to get everybody back going to school, opening their business, and prospering. So hopefully we'll all work together to get that going. At the end of the day, by the end of session, hopefully we'll be in a much better position at the end of April for our.
Go finish your final thoughts, sir.
Oh, that was it. I'm just saying by the end of April, which is the session, April 30th, hopefully we will be in a better position and the state will look a lot different and we will be on the road to prosperity.
Representative Skidmore.
Thank you, Michael. Again, I won't beat the horse of inoculation and vaccination, but you know, American ingenuity is something that we're all very proud of, and so I think that at the end of session, there will be opportunities for entrepreneurship, innovation that have never been available before, just based on what we've been through. We can fast track things when we need to. We can come together when we need to. So I really hope and believe that we are going to look at the business community and the opportunities that are available and work together to make that pathway bright for anyone who wants to get engaged in it.
Thank you so much. Representative David Silvers.
Thank you very much. I would probably be working on my relationships that I've already built within the DeSantis administration to hopefully get their ear and tell them we need to coordinate with the Biden administration so we can get inoculations, vaccines out to our population throughout our state, but also really within Palm Beach County. Like I mentioned before, we've got the densest population of 65 and over in the state of Florida, and I would do whatever I can to try to coordinate that between, even though we're different parties, like it was mentioned before, I think Rep. Wilhite said this is not a partisan issue. This is a human issue, and we need to get those vaccines in as many arms as possible.
Thank you, sir. Representative Rick Roth.
Yes, sir. I'm going to take a little bit different tack. Obviously, I'm glad that Johnson & Johnson's coming out with a new vaccine, and I think that's really the answer, is getting more supply, and hopefully, as Representative Wilhite said, we can continue to have a good working relationship with the administration. I want to take a little different tack. One of the things I learned this year with the COVID was how important our food banks are. And this is an issue that I started working on 2 years ago. And Palm Beach County is the epicenter because we have 1.5 million people, and we are the largest producer of vegetables and other foods in Palm Beach County. We need to get the word out to all our local community leaders that the state of Florida wants to spend more money getting more food into the food bank system, but we need help from those people willing to donate dollars to build infrastructure. Our own Palm Beach County owned food bank has upgraded its location, has moved, but we need the food bank system to grow in infrastructure.
We'll need to wrap up, sir.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Representative Hardy.
Yes, and I'm just making, so the question was where concretely.
Where are your constituents going to be at
Right.
the end of session on
We
the
had our
biggest
brothers.
Yeah, well, not only your druthers, but in a realistic sense for the participants in this conversation, given the budget issues, given the choices, the tough ones that are going to have to be made, given the interrelationship with the federal government, where do you think on the biggest issues your constituents will be throughout not just yours, but throughout Palm Beach County at the end of this session?
Well, I would hope that more of my constituents would have access to affordable housing because I believe that there's bipartisan consensus not to sweep those funds. I would hope that my constituents who are employed, for example, by the school district won't have to worry about their jobs because of pending budget cuts to education funding, which I think is important. And so I hope concretely that they won't be in a position of insecurity with respect to that. I don't believe that our caucus or that any individual legislator should negotiate with themselves. I'm willing to work with, Republicans and frankly, I really believe that we have an opportunity to show what we value here in the state of Florida, even in this very difficult and challenging time budgetarily.
Senator Bobby Powell.
Thank you, Michael. And as I always say, a life of service is indeed a life that counts. We definitely need to make sure we get more people vaccinated, and we're seeing strategies being rolled out this weekend, or should I say last weekend. We had a couple of vaccines rolled out in West Palm Beach and Riviera Beach through the churches. I know I can say for a fact in Riviera Beach, people are saying that, it's hard to get Black people to get vaccinated. where, well, about 90% of the people who came to Riviera Beach on Saturday were Black people who wanted to be vaccinated, and that list is continuing to grow. After session, what I'm hopeful to have is more transparency between our government and our elected officials. I'm hopeful that we'll have visibility, meaning that we'll show up and continue to lead in person. And also we have to show empathy, understanding where people are at. One of the biggest issues that our community has in terms of us as elected officials and the rest of the community is that idea of empathy. So at the end of session, these are things that I'm hopeful will continue to be displayed as we try to put ourselves back in economic prosperity here in the state of Florida.
Thank you, sir. And Senator Tina Polsky.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you to the Chamber for having us. I hope that we all can agree that government has a really important role in our society. I think that idea has been devalued over time. There's been many conspiracy theories. There's been a lot of disbelief in what we do and frustration. And I think it's incumbent upon us to try to fix some of the things that are broken, fix things like unemployment, fix things like public health crises, and get the vaccines in people. But this is when people realize they do need government. We're all elected officials. We've dedicated ourselves to public service. We're certainly not in this for the money. There's no glory. It's really hard work. And it's not a part-time position, even though that's what it's billed as. So, we're here to help our constituents get through this crisis. So, we need people to believe in government again, to trust that government is there to help, and to not fight it so much and be more accepting. And I certainly hope that the new administration, I believe, will help with that. And as to follow up on Senator Powell, empathy. And that's what I think we're here for, not to fight. Hard.
Thank you so much, Senator. And finally, Senator Lori Berman.
Thank you so much. I started off talking about the 4 crises that we're facing right now in the state. And I hope that when we finish session, a lot of those issues will start to be resolved. Number 1, COVID. I hope a lot more people will be getting vaccinated. Number 2, the economy. If we get people vaccinated, the economy is going to start to heat up again and really move forward. Number 3, the climate crisis. There was a question on it. We didn't get to talk about it today. But I have filed a bill that by 2040, the state should be using 100% renewable energy. I'd like to see our bill start to get some discussion and talk about how we need to be using more renewable energy in Florida. And number 4, the racial injustice crisis that we're having in America. I filed a bill to have a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer on the state cabinet level. Hopefully we'll do something towards that so we can start to really spend some time this session really addressing all 4 crises. Thank you.
So many things to talk about, and we humbly acknowledge that conversations like this are only the beginning of conversations. We also acknowledge happily that those of you who have participated, are engaged, do care, are the ones who are going to be calling our representatives, looking for more depth and context. And as they work in Tallahassee, you'll certainly be pushing them with your perspective, focus, and concerns. So again, today's always just a jumping off point. I'm going to turn it back over to Al and Mary Lou, and thank you to all of you, to each one of you, for being participants in the start of this conversation. Mary Lou and Al.
Thank you so much, Michael. We appreciate you facilitating a really great conversation today. Lots of questions were addressed and you did some wonderful conversation. I want to thank all of our legislators. We want to thank you for your dedication and service to the people of Palm Beach County. We realize it is a very challenging year and you are all just doing an excellent job representing us. So we appreciate your time today. And I want to thank our audience for attending, for submitting your questions by filling out our survey, and for supporting our chamber. And for those of you, the conversation about housing was very lively, and we are going to be having our Palm Beach County Housing Summit that we are hosting next Friday via Zoom in partnership with the Housing Leadership Council. And so we hope you'll all join us. That starts at 11 o'clock next Friday. And if you want to get the recording or any more information, we have the information there. You can email us at info@cppchamber or go to our website at cppchamber.com. And also for those of you who are following us on social media, please make sure that you check us out for future events, and please tag us at cppchamber.com on our Facebook or Instagram, or you can use our hashtag CPPChamber. So thank you all so much. We really appreciate it. Again, Michael Williams, exceptional job. Thank you to all of our legislators, and we wish you all a great weekend, and please stay healthy. Take care. Thank you, Al, for our opening. We appreciate that.
My
Take care.
pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Good day, everyone.